Hi, welcome back to Pragmatic Agility. In the previous lesson, we finished setting up our development environment and we are ready to get started on knocking out all these beginner SQL questions. A couple of them are kind of easy, so we're not really going to make a single video for all of them. And that really shows up in the very beginning because we have how to create a table, how to create a database. Well, to create a table, we have to create a database first. So we're going to do this one first. Then we're going to jump to the create a table. And then we're going to jump to create multiple tables. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So revert this. Yes. So what we are going to do is we're going to right click, select create new database. Say the new database, you could call it anything you want. 2. This is a character set and the correlation. That's the type of character encoding that the database will do, and the default's fine. This will work for most everything. And there we go. We made it. But you know what? You might be saying, well, what's the command for that? And that's perfectly fine. So let me go ahead and exit out of this and show you how I got to this point. So again, I'm in the bash shell in the directory of that vagrant. So I'm going to say vagrant SSH. And that command is going to connect us to that specific vagrant through an SSH connection, which basically is the same thing as connecting to that Ubuntu Linux to an SSH connection or a shell connection. Okay, connected in. I'm going to type in sudo -s. That's going to switch me to the super user. Make sure I don't have any permission errors or permission issues. And I'm going to do mysql -u root -p. I'm going to enter my password that I established when I was provisioning. All right, show databases. That's the command to show the databases. All right, that looks familiar. All right, so create database Crash Bandicoot. Okay, he's kind of a cool guy. Semicolon. Query okay, one row affected. Did we create a database? Let's check. Left click on databases, right click, refresh. Crash Bandicoot database. I'm going to set that as my active database. Okay, very nice. All right. So that completes that. Let's cross that out. How to create a database. Done. Strike through. Now, could you get more complicated with your commands to create a database? Yeah, you could. You could define a different character correlation set. And if you get this character correlation set wrong when you're interacting with the database, you'll start to see potentially lots of weird stuff. However, creating the database should really be very easy to do. It's programming the database where you're creating tables and relationships where things start to get complicated. All right, so next is create a table. So I'm going to right click on this, actually left click, go down to tables, right click on tables, create a new table. I'm going to say, it's called new table, but I'll just say table 1. I'm going to right click, select, create new column. I'm going to call it a ID. I'm just going to leave it as varchar. Now the data type, and we're starting to get a little more complicated when we start talking about this stuff, deals whether or not you can type in text or integers or Boolean values, which are true or false. Databases, when you get back to their more primitive layer, are very strict on what data you're putting in each column. Whereas on the front end, it could appear that you're doing whatever you want. But once you get to the back end, it's like being in a sterile environment. It's very controlled. It's very specific on what things are and where things go. So I'm just going to leave that as a varchar. Hit OK. And let's go ahead and save this. This is the command that will create that table. I'm going to go ahead and copy this out and paste it into a new tab on Notepad. So persist. All right, left click, refresh. So that table is there now. Now, up until the point that I clicked save, that table did not exist in that database, even though it looked like it might have. dbeaver was caching and storing my settings. And then when I clicked save, dbeaver sent the create table command to the database, at which point the database instantiated the table. So let's cross that off our list. How to create a table. Done. Strike through. How to create multiple tables. Well, let's create another table. And we'll call this one table 2. All right. And we're just going to right click, add a new column. Call it ID again. Leave it as varchar again. We're not going into the details of the settings of the columns, though those do get very important as the database size and complexity increases, because you got to be very specific with how you're controlling that data. But at the very basic primitive level, right now, it's not important at all. So we have this table 2. Go ahead and click save. There's our command. I'm going to copy this command out again. I'm going to go ahead and paste it into my file. And I'm going to select persist. Now, if I right click, click refresh, I can see those 2 tables are there. I created each table one at a time. Could I create multiple tables at the same time? Yeah, I could. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this table. And delete this table. Yes, delete. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, then I'm going to click on SQL Editor, New SQL Editor. All right. And then I'm just going to copy this out. And I'm going to paste it in here. And I'm going to click this Execute SQL Script button. All right. Let's left click, right click, refresh. Our tables are back. We've appended these commands to each other, and we created multiple tables at the same time. So we created a single table, we created a multiple table. Let's go ahead and cross that out. Where is it at? Format, text. Strike through. Okay, how to download or install. Now, I don't want this video to get too long, so we've checked 3 things off here. In the next video, we're going to move through 4, 5, 6, the rest. If you found this video useful or beneficial, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks.